address? How do we convince it that leaders do indeed exist?
You don't feel that you must be the first person to do it, but there's always somebody who will say, okay, let me take an example, let's write what we need to do here, where do we need to start. There's always that person who will facilitate for people to problem solve. And I think for me, initially, those are the small attributes of being a leader.
It starts with us, and we are the us. Always ready to learn. Tune into 1873 FM, your voice, your power.
Well, this is the 1873 FM, your channel of choice, your platform for frank, open and frank, honest conversations in as far as shaping and defining the character and personality of the future you want, the future I want, the future that we all want collectively. And the name is Tinashe Mpasere. Glad to be hosting this afternoon show. And more importantly, as we mentioned earlier, that we'll be bringing you this interesting conversation with Honorable Anele Ndebele, who is a member of parliament of Magwegwe constituency, in as far as the role of a legislature in constitutional democracy. So if you are tuned in at this moment and you also want to add your voice or comment, you are more than free to do so through the 1873 FM social media platforms, that is Facebook as well as Twitter. So right about now, I'm glad that I am joined by Honorable Anele Ndebele on the other end of the line. Honorable, a wonderful afternoon to you, and thank you so much for giving up time to be on the 1873 FM this afternoon.
Good afternoon, Tinashe. Thank you very much for inviting me onto the show. The surname again is Ndebele, but no offense taken. I've used Ndlovu before.
Oh, it's Ndebele. I don't know where I'm getting Ndlovu from, but nonetheless, that is, I'll bear that in mind. I won't make that mistake again. Anyway, going ahead with our conversation this afternoon, Honorable, maybe for the benefit of our listeners, for the benefit of our viewers, if you could just briefly talk to us. Who is Honorable Anele Ndebele, your background, and more importantly, when you look at this role that you actually play as a legislator, when did you get involved in being in this field called politics, and what inspired you at the end of the day?
I've always been in politics. You know, like a small fish takes to water. One doesn't need training if one's parents have been political activists themselves. So I am born of politicians on either side of my parentage. So I'm a natural politician, so to speak. I represent the people of Magwegwe in the National Assembly, and I'm a backbencher. I am a teacher, a journalist, and more recently, a lawyer by profession. So in brief, that's me, Tinashe.
Well, you actually wear quite a number of hats, and I must applaud you for that. So, Honorable Ndebele, it is actually my first time. It was only today that I came to know of you, and also to know that you happen to be the member of parliament of Magwegwe. And all too often, as individuals like myself, we actually do not know who our legislators are, and particularly the role that our legislators play in a constitutional democracy. And that being said, Honorable, maybe we could just kick off by you also just talking to us, particularly, what is it that concerns you so much when you look at the future of the people of your constituency, when you look at the future of the people who reside in Zimbabwe, and more importantly, the people who live on this geographical region that we call Africa? And what is it that you can say in your capacity as member of parliament are capable of doing in order to secure the order that we all desire collectively?
Thank you, Tinashe, for that question. Perhaps to cut to the chase, we need to establish what are the primary roles of a parliamentarian before I delve into the rest of what you require me to go into. It's a weighty task indeed, but when you look at modern parliaments, there are about 3 roles for a parliamentarian. Firstly, one plays the representative role. You know, when you hold government to account for its policies, actions, and its spending, if you want. The second one, which most people know us for, is the legislative role, the law-making role, which really requires an individual MP to have a firm grasp and comprehension of the legal and legislative issues in our country. And then thirdly, there is the oversight role, overseeing the government through hearings and inquiries. And I am sure you are conversant with the work of parliamentary committees that invite different arms of government to appear for hearings and inquiries. Basically, I would say that is my understanding of the role of a member of parliament.
One thing that you mentioned is that you are actually a representative. On that note, Honorable, do you represent a particular party, or you in which party? Which party? Firstly, which party do you belong to, Honorable?
I'm a member of the proud movement Democratic for Change, the MDC. But
Okay.
once one has been, it's a good question you ask, I must say. When one has been elected member of parliament, you derobe. You don't represent those of your party alone, but you also represent those that were even vociferously opposed to your election to the seat. Put differently, you assume the role of a national leader. You represent your constituency as well as those that live outside your constituency. And indeed, I must underline that we are also the voice of those that live in the diaspora as members of parliament.
Okay, okay, that's interesting. At least it's clarified that for those who might think that Honorable is only a representative of the members of the MDC, he is a representative of all individuals despite their political affiliation. So now on to the next aspect. When you look at yourself, Honorable, particularly the role that you play in Parliament, and if you were to look just at the issues that concern you, what are the issues that concern you, your Honorable? And more importantly, in your capacity as a member of parliament, what is it that you can say you are capable of doing with this office that you hold?
Well, there are a lot of things that concern me. First, at the individual level, and secondly, as a parliamentarian. I am particularly miffed at the fact that as a progressive nation, a well-educated one for that matter, we are still battling with 1983 headaches, basic issues such as service delivery, basic issues such as provision of jobs to our people, basic matters that should all be easy, such as feeding ourselves together with our people, and the freedom of the individual. These are so 1983. Quite a number of progressive democracies have had the opportunity to address these matters. You know, our country has been dealing with the issue of adoptions fairly recently. It's a topical issue. These are basic, issues that we should have addressed way back, but they still come back to the fore even today.
Mhm. Yes, honorable. Yes. I think you raised something that is really fundamental. That some of the issues that actually are on the table are issues that ought to have been addressed way back, and we are concerned about the ghost of yesteryear instead of listening to the whispers of tomorrow. In that case, honorable, when it comes to listening to the whispers of tomorrow, looking at the view mirror and rather than looking at the small rear view mirror, looking at the windscreen, the front windscreen instead of the rear view mirror. When you look at the role of legislators in particularly Zimbabwe, which we which is a constitutional democracy, what would you say that at the end of the day ought to be the main purpose of government?
Well, let me limit myself to the role of Parliament itself because I'm a parliamentarian. If you look at our constitution, I believe it's section 117 that canvasses the role of a parliamentarian in the manner you have asked. It is incumbent upon every parliamentarian to uphold and protect the Constitution. You know, it is our duty as members of Parliament to ensure that the rights of individuals and minorities, particularly, are respected. In that regard, it's our role to protect the freedom of conscience,
Mhm.
the freedom of expression. These are basic tenets of a parliamentary democracy.
Okay, so if you were just to look at the parliamentarians that happen to be in the parliament of Zimbabwe, if you were asked to name just five parliamentarians who stand out as points of light, as shining stars that you yourself, as Honorable Ndebele, say you can bank on in securing Africa's future, and who speak to the role of parliamentarians in a constitutional democracy, are there any five names that would come to your mind of those individuals that you see as shining stars, as points of lights that inspire you?
Well, let me not go there by way of naming particular individuals, but let me stick to the fact that an upright and proper parliamentarian, whom I would regard as a beacon of hope and light, is one that would thoroughly fulfill the role of holding government to account for its policies, actions, and spending. One that would oversee the activities of government through doing due diligence work, through doing proper research, conducting and participating effectively in hearings and inquiries into government activities, and one that would fully represent the electorate by one, going to the electorate for feedback meetings, secondly, by practicing or carrying on the rare trait of listening to the electorate before coming into parliament to debate on issues. So the easy problem that we fall into, or a trap, is to look at those members of parliament that get a lot of limelight from the media and think these are the people that are doing a perfect job. There is a lot of wonderful and amazing work from both sides of the aisle that goes on in our parliament. There are a lot of men and women who put shoulder to wheel to ensure that the committee business goes on properly and they participate therein actively. But of course, we do get those that get the limelight in newspapers and on television, but it doesn't mean we can reduce the entire parliament to the activities of about 5 individuals. It is in that light that I need to steer away and dissuade you from looking at parliament in that view mirror.
Okay, and on that note, Honorable, at the end of the day, do you think that there is also need to actually identify such individuals and recognize them for the work that they're doing and salute them, and more importantly, be able to build this community where knowledge around the role of parliamentarians can be actually shared, and more importantly, where ideas are exchanged under the banner banking on Africa's future 10,000 points of light?
Yes, that's a good question. But let me put it in this way: why should we identify those that are already strong? Are we not expending effort and energy in the wrong direction? If you ask me, Tinashe, like you have just done, I would suggest let us go for the weak ones. If you know that Anele has not even had the opportunity to cough in parliament during a debate, go for me, identify me, phone me, and train me on the sidelines so that I wake up to the call to represent the electorate. Those that are already doing well will be rewarded at every election time if they want to come back to parliament. Is it not that they get the mandate from the electorate? It is the electorate that will reward them, isn't it? So let us identify the weakest links in that chain so that we work towards the common good of making our country great again.
So, as we wrap up the conversation, Honorable Ndebele, your final words to your constituents. I am one of those constituents. What would be your final words today?
My final words are: if an elected leader is not doing his work, your turn will always come during election time. It's important, Tinashe, to have a politically literate electorate. You will agree with me that it's a critical component in building a liberal democratic culture. You know, it doesn't make sense for educated Zimbabweans. We always pride ourselves that we have a, a high literacy rate, but it doesn't make sense to go on and vote semi-illiterate people into a position of MP and expect them to make laws that will govern our country. You know, the lawmaking process itself is complex, and some of the debates that go on in the House are quite complex in their nature. So it is retrogressive for anyone to vote in someone who is illiterate. I have no problem with those that are illiterate and are able and have a passion to make laws to come to the National Assembly.
Well, on that note, it's been a very interesting conversation, Honorable Anele Ndebele, and I'm also excited that I, as Tinashe, deposit your name to our bank, that is the Banking on Africa's Future, 10,000 points of light. And your both identity number is BOAF 620. So you happen to be the 620th individual in this bank of ours as we seek to march towards the ideal of the 10,000 names on a daily basis through these conversations.
I'm happy to be part of that tank.
You are very much welcome, and thank you once again, Honorable, and definitely I look forward to more conversations with you and just getting updates and insights of what it is that is taking place in Parliament when you sit for Parliament.
Thank you.
You have yourself a lovely day further.
You have a good one too.
Okay, goodbye for now. So that was Honorable Anele Ndebele, who is Member of Parliament in the Parliament of Zimbabwe and Member of Parliament for Magwegwe constituency. So this is your platform where we get to also have these individuals whom you have actually entrusted with your power to represent you in public in Parliament. So Max Manyika says, watching from diaspora. Glad to know that you are tuned in, Max, and I do hope that you found the conversation insightful as well as informative. And yes, if you would also want to take part in these conversations, reach out to us through the 1873 FM's social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter. The handle to follow is the 1873 FM. And on that note, as we wrap up this show, make sure that you also make a date with MC Wildfire on the 1873 drive for more insightful and more informative conversations between 3 p.m. and 6 p.m. Central African Time. And as I make my way out, sounds of the 1873 United Artists with a track titled Working on My Dash.
It's all about my life. It's all about
full of surprise.